UN Habitat has established a portal for partners to post their Urban October events, which links to UN Habitat's online platform and other publicity channels. To date, events are planned in some 30 countries, and this number is expected to increase significantly. I would like very much appreciate member states' support to develop events which highlights urban opportunities, challenges, and solutions during Urban October. I look forward working with you so that together we can make Urban October a resounding success in increasing the momentum for action to improve quality of life for all in an urbanizing world. Thank you very much, and looking forward to a fruitful discussion during this webinar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Over to you, Dr. Amira. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maimouna, for a very good talk that said it all about Kuwait during the 9th session of UN75 webinar entitled Urban Development and Future Cities Towards Building Back a Better Post-COVID-19 Kuwait. And now, please allow me to introduce Mr. Houling, who is UN Assistant Secretary General and UNDP Bureau Director for Policy based in New York. Howlin has been with the United Nations for over 30 years. He has appeared on the Washington Post, BBC, World TV, CNBC, the Wall Street Journal, and other top-tier media. He delivered policy speeches at Harvard, Georgetown, Johns Hopkins, Columbia, and other universities. He was featured by the EY and the Guardian in the 2014 Global Public Leaders Series. Without any delays, please over to you, Mr. Houling.
Thank you very much, Amira, for this very generous introduction. Excellencies, distinguished partners and the representatives of the government of Kuwait and the Kuwait institutions, Your Excellency Dr. Khaled Mahdi, Secretary General for the Supreme Council for Planning and Development, Dr. Maimouna Sharif, UN Habitat Executive Director, and Mr. Tarek El Sheikh, UN Resident Coordinator in Kuwait. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to be here with you for a constructive dialogue and exchange of ideas towards building a sustainable urbanization based on the Kuwait Vision 2035 as part of the UN75Talk series. I want to thank the government of Kuwait for their partnership and the United Nations in Kuwait for their invitation. COVID-19 has been largely an urban crisis. Nearly 90% of all cases and the epicenters of the pandemic across countries are in cities. But the population density does not necessarily correlate with the high incidence of the pandemic. Poverty and deprivation, poor planning, inadequate infrastructure, and weak governance structures do. But despite hard hit by this pandemic, cities will continue to be engines of growth and opportunities, accounting for more than 80% of global GDP. In the next 20 years, about 70% of the world's population will be living in cities. Therefore, we must leverage sustainable urbanization as a transformative force for the COVID-19 Building Back Better effort, a force that can accelerate progress towards a healthier, greener, safer, more inclusive, and more resilient future set out in the new Kuwait Vision 2035 and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. UNDP, in its technical lead role for the UN's socio-economic response to COVID-19 at the country level, supporting the resident coordinators, is helping to leverage the wider UN system across 131 country teams. Thus far, We have closely supported 83 countries to conduct 120 COVID-19 socioeconomic impact assessments and helped 120 countries to have a socioeconomic response plans supported by the UN country teams. So let me make a couple of quick points, in relation to the Building Back Better. The three encouraging patterns, are emerging for a better recovery, which are directly relevant for the future of cities. Firstly, there are a lot of willingness of countries to address pre-existing and underlying conditions of inequalities, which is a critical condition for sustained and sustainable recovery. Majority of the people pushed back into poverty due to COVID-19 are likely to be living in cities. So people-centered measures contained in the response plans to protect the people either by saving lives with investments in health services or by implementing cash transfers or restoring livelihoods will be critical to secure social cohesion in urban areas. Secondly, the cities are likely key players in the pursuit of a green, resilient, and inclusive economic recovery. Recovery measures should steer cities' local economic development towards a low carbon and more resilient pathway. At the NDP, we are supporting 100 countries to connect their enhanced national determined contributions and the Paris Agreement to COVID-19 longer-term response and recovery efforts. The NDP is also supporting small and medium enterprises to implement new business models linking to the achievement of the SDGs. Some businesses have been successfully established for offering technologies and services for waste management, cleaning ocean, and agriculture and sustainable energy. In this regard, I'm pleased to announce that the NDP is supporting an SME initiative to overcome COVID-19 challenges in Kuwait. Thirdly, across the globe, the current pandemic is accelerating the speed of digitalization. This transition to digital life is an important element to future city infrastructure and buildings. The NDP, through its Global Policy Center and Technology, Innovation and Sustainable Development in Singapore, is supporting the government of Singapore's mission to become and to work with the Kuwait government to become a reference for food and sustainability through the application of technologies on digital agriculture and urban vertical farming. Lastly, access to finance is a major constraint to city and the regional governments worldwide. On average, local authorities will have between 15 to 25% fewer revenues in 2021 due to a contraction of urban economies. So we must encourage national governments stimulus packages to include dedicated urban recovery funds. As we move forward at the NDP, we have been deepening our collaboration in the UN system, in particular with UN Habitat and with the associations of city and regional governments to enhance our support to cities to spur an inclusive and green recovery. With UN Habitat, the UNDP has successfully implemented joint projects on sustainable urbanization globally and prominently in this region, such as in Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain. I thank you for your attention and I look forward to listening to the views from representatives from both the public and the private sectors of Kuwait. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Howling, for this very short but precise and right to the point speech. Before we move to the short video clip that will cover the youth and the children's perspective of a future Kuwait, allow me please to ask you all to join us in a group picture. So if you turn your camera on, please. This is to all speakers in this webinar. Kindly open your cameras so we'll have a group picture of this webinar. Okay, thank you so much. And now we will please, before we move to the video clip again, I would like to welcome the new people joining us in the webinar stream live on YouTube. And would like to remind you again, there is a two-way translation. Interpretation is available through the icon at the bottom of the screen. If you have any question, there is the chat box, and there is also the service of raise your hand. And now, please allow me to play this video clip about the perspective of children of Kuwait.
There is no doubt that the economy of the state of Kuwait is based on its oil as a major resource, but my belief says that the vision of the new state of Kuwait will be through diversifying sources of economic income, through concern on education, utilization of solar energy, recycling of waste, stimulating tourism, and interest in the industry.
In 2035, I'd love to see Kuwait as a country improved in all aspects: an improved democracy and political system, a more diversified economy, and a better educational system.
I think in 2035 Kuwait will be one of the world's foremost cities in both terms and urban development.
I think in 2035 we'll travel by trains from Kuwait to the whole world.
I think Kuwait in 2035 will have a big entertainment city like Disneyland.
I would like to see Kuwait in 2035 with much more successful entrepreneurs that can take a lead of being a Kuwaiti business owner.
I think Kuwait will be full of trees.
I imagine Kuwait 2035 will include international sports competitions for women and girls.
In 2035, I wish Kuwait will have a lot of theme parks to suit all ages.
I wish that in Kuwait there will be plenty of water parks so you can play in, so you can swim in, and so you can slide in the slide and have fun with our family and with our friends.
Okay, over to you, Ms. Haidiko, resident representative of you in DP Kuwait.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amira. Welcome to this panel discussion. My name is Hideko Hajiarich, United Nations Development Program in Kuwait. I am going to moderate today's discussion on COVID-19, urban development, and then future cities with distinguished guest speakers from Kuwait. We are also delighted to have broad international participation from, of course, Malaysia, Singapore, Bangkok, India, Arab states, Europe, and New York. As you saw in the agenda, we have 8 speakers at this session of 1 hour time. So I will ask a question or 2 to each panelist. In order to make it interactive, you are encouraged to ask questions in the Q&A chat box during our discussions, and I will try to reflect your questions to the extent possible. But in case we cannot respond to all the questions during this seminar, our team will take care of your questions, and we will post our response or perspectives at UNDP Kuwait website later. So, our first panelist is His Excellency Dr. Khaled Mahdi, the Secretary General for the Supreme Council for Planning and Development, which is a central strategic planning and coordination entity and plays an integrator role in implementing Kuwait Vision 2035 as well as Sustainable Development Goals. So, Dr. Khaled Mahdi, may I ask a question? How will COVID-19 influence public policies across various sectors? Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Heideko. I would like first to thank all the distinguished panelists and the organizers for bringing us all together in a very nice platform. Now we are getting used to virtual meeting and getting together virtually. It's becoming not just simply the new normal, it is the normal. By the time we are getting used to these virtual meeting, we are actually sending a very good message around the globe that we are maybe physically not connected, but we are spiritually, mentally, and knowledge perspective all connected. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Tariq Sheikh for the UN 75 talk series. I was honored to be part of the series on several occasions. This is a very important series. It reflects a lot of ideas that's coming from the private sector, the NGOs, and the public sector as well. I would like to thank you and Habitat, Ms. Maimouna Mohammed Sharif, for participating in this nice UN talk series. Dr. Amir Al Hassan for being a very active and a proactive and quite a pro-UN Habitat person that is fighting everywhere for the reputation of the UN Habitat. And I would like to thank Mr. Howling Show for being with us from the Global Policy Network and UNDP, and all the team, Heideko and your team, for doing marvelous and a great job. Yesterday we were doing Ideathon, which was a regional event that included 17 countries and almost more than 100 teams been participating. 2-3 months ago, we were doing hackathon. All of these are important efforts done by the UN as well as by the Kuwaiti government to tackle and hack the COVID-19. COVID-19, you can look at it from two directions, whether as an opportunity or a threat. It has a two sides of the story. I like to take it as an opportunity. I mean, this is the way my mind is set, is to look for positive things even during a crisis time. Yes, it is a very unprecedented crisis, never been happening in the world in our lifetime. It happened 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, disconnecting the whole world at that time. Now we are more of a connected world at the mental, at the knowledge level. This COVID-19 has its impact on our way of doing business, our new life, or as we call it, a new normal, which is becoming now for our children and grandchildren as the normal. How is COVID-19 impacted the country in Kuwait? Like any crisis that impact countries around the world, I will take an opportunity to look at the public policy being impacted due to the COVID-19. As you know, we are responsible for the Kuwait National Development Plan. And in drafting this national plan, we are consulting all the sectors. If you take a look at our draft in the Kuwait National Development Plan, we had a thank you letter to more than 500 and more people coming from different sectors, whether the private, the public, and the NGOs as well, beside our UN partners. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the UN partners, as well as affiliated to the UN, the World Bank, IMF, and all the others. If we are looking at the opportunity side of the story, how we seize the opportunity side of the COVID-19 impact on the national plan, on the public policy. One part, which is the most important, is I see COVID-19 as being the catalyst to our digital transformation. Here in the Kuwaiti government, we keep talking about the e-government, digital government, and this sounds nice, very nice on paper maybe. And some work was done, minimal, from here and there on a small project. But with the COVID-19 showing up on the in Kuwait roughly at the end of February, it initiated and ignited a digital transformation around the whole government sector. government entities who were not willing to deal with the digital transformation. Now they are using the digital transformation as a de facto, as an important. The digital transformation is an important public policy in the Kuwait National Development Plan. So this is a very good positive effect that the COVID-19 was the catalyst to move toward more digitization in the whole plan. That's number one. Second thing, which is a very interesting, is we have now concept proof of the importance of healthy city. And I can see part of the attendance, Dr. Ghassan Al-Athman, as well Dr. Amali Haya, as well as other from Yarmouk being identified as the first HCI, the Healthy City Initiative, part of the Healthy City Initiative of the UN, and it's being actually organized by the WHO. We see that the proof of concept of having healthy city in Kuwait is paying off. Yarmouk City, actually, they have their own way as a very small suburb, I won't call it a city, but it's a small suburb in the Kuwait, in Kuwait, but they were acting big in terms of tackling the COVID-19. This proof of concept actually is pushing us more and more to have healthy city initiative as a part of the public policy in the national plan. And there are a lot that I can talk about from that concept. And the third part of the whole story, the more and more we can see the private sector ability to act in response to the e-learning and online education faster than the public sector, make the private sector a very important candidate to be included in the transformation of the services, which we are actually in the national plan pushing for it. As you know, the Kuwait vision has a very important strategic direction, changing the role of the government from being the operator of the economy to the regulator and the monitor of the economy. It gives a very clear message that if the role of the government was regulating and monitoring is actually the best way to go. COVID-19, I take it as a very positively, as a good prototype, a proof of concept, practically being proven for many concepts that we keep talk about it from a strategic perspective that actually being proven. Now, in a nutshell, there are a lot of negative side of the COVID-19, but I would like to just shed the light on the positive side as well. It actually shows Kuwait as a very resilient, Kuwait city as a very resilient city. Yes, not without issues and challenges, which is quite common around the world. The government acted upon this crisis with their best of their institutional and individual capacity. The actual role of the NGO, the civil society, was very obvious, very clear, giving a very clear indication on how CSO can influence the volunteerism, which is a program that we are working with the UNDP with now and Mossad on trying to set volunteerism as a part of crisis management. Also, the COVID-19 shows clearly the more and more need on having a proper crisis management and a proper policy. These policies are also part of the Kuwait National Development Plan. So I think I took a 5 minutes and respond to that, and maybe in another intervention, I might show some of the policies in the national plan, which actually are aligned with what we are talking about. But because your question related to the COVID-19, I want just to shed the light on some of the policy in a nutshell that influence the overall thinking and philosophy behind the Kuwait National Development Plan. Please allow me to share the screen, if you don't mind. The host is disabling me to share. Please allow me. Thank you. So if you would like to see what we have right now, it's a program which is part of the Kuwait National Plan that indeed it shows where is the side of the story with regard to building city. As you can see, these are the targets we are looking at to achieve: an integrated water management, sustainable waste, and the clean air quality as a part of building a harmonious environment. These are the SDG targeted and impacted in the national plan, and these are the pillars of the Kuwait National Development Plan, and these are the goals and the KPIs we are looking at. So if we look at the policy, you can see the policy 6.2 is to build eco-cities using a green building and a green infrastructure principle and smart technology, which is clearly clearly being indicated and nicely by the panelists and the keynote speaker. This has been targeted in the Kuwait National Development Plan. COVID-19 approved. It's very important to look at this policy and work out toward achieving this policy in the Kuwait National Development Plan 3. I would like to show also building livable environment, to show healthy city as being part of 7 point. Let me just check it out. And building healthy city initiative, which is the HCI, by providing a proper structure on that healthy city, which is part of the Healthy City 7.2, scale up the Healthy City initiative and promote community development and individual health and well-being at the local level, which is also considered an important component in building up city in the country. I want also to show another program which is addressing the infrastructure. I'm glad that Sheikh Hassanid is part of one of the initiative and in drafting the policy with this regard. If we look at it, we can see a very important policy being contributing for the country, as which is the implementation of the Kuwait Master Plan 4, which is targeting a green and eco city to be developed, and the creation of more of a sustainable alternative to the housing system we have right now. So in a nutshell, the Kuwait National Development Plan policy and these 3 programs, and with several policy being outlined, actually addressing all the concern even before the COVID-19. And with the COVID-19, they become more urgent and more emphasized. This is why I would say COVID-19, from a positive perspective, consider a catalyst that can drive the country forward with a proper evidence-based policy that we have in the national plan. I stop here, and I will be more than happy to answer any other question. But I will need to take off in a few minutes for another meeting, Heidi. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Khaled Mahdi. This is a great introduction of a big picture of a policy landscape, including fully integrated SDG-based national development strategy. So COVID-19 will be an accelerator for incremental reform process. So this is a great segue also to introduce the next speaker, Honorable Omran Hayat, a member of the Chamber of Commerce and board member of Chamber of Commerce and the Industry of Kuwait. So, Mr. Omran, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, fantastic. So from the Chamber of Commerce point of view, what are the challenges and also opportunities for the private sector and then commerce posed by COVID-19? And then where do you see opportunities for new business ideas and then investment towards smart cities? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ediko. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all the time zones. First of all, I would like really to thank the UN for inviting or extending an invitation to the Chamber of Commerce to participate in such an important and current topic. There are a couple of things that if I can start with before addressing your question, Hediko, is one, watching that video played in the beginning puts a lot of pressure on all in order to meet the expectations and the dreams of our children. So that's very very important to keep in perspective. Second thing is I am proud, very proud to be one of the residents of Yarmouk, so the healthy city. I am a resident, and I am proud to be part of Yarmouk health city. And lastly, I want to comment on what Mr. Mehdi said. Dr. Mehdi said is really the digitization process has really accelerated in Kuwait, and maybe I don't want to say, but I have to say thanks to COVID-19. But yes, we see that, and that's really a positive point. Now, addressing your, coming back to your point, Hediko, I think we are all, everybody's trying to answer the question of resilience, and although I have a very soft spot to urban development and infrastructure because of my background in real estate, but today I talk about commerce. Resilience in commerce is basically I see it in two different forms. One is the commercial, and one is the health and safety. Commercially is being just able to generate, to continue or sustainably generate revenue, and now I'm talking more about more the SMEs, and that's a very vital point for this group. The group is in order to sustain the generation of revenue in a very important vital group. SMEs represents an important part of the ecosystem of a city. In many countries, they generate 30 to 40% of the GDP. In Kuwait, they represent 90% of the companies in Kuwait are small and medium enterprises. So, sustaining revenue is important. Moving people is important. Protecting the supply chain is important, and this is all very important and an integral part of planning a city. The SMEs in Kuwait face challenges in doing all of the above. Some of them had better way of adapting and utilizing technologies, utilizing new ways of providing services, working from home. But I think they were all challenged on keeping that revenue generated. The second issue was the safety and health and safety of the people in the SMEs community, and that challenge was basically knowing the operation mode that they have to work with. I think one of the colleagues in the beginning said the access to finance is important, and for SMEs that was a very critical point. And I think the government in Kuwait, although acted in a bit of a slow pace, addressing the challenges which the SMEs were facing, and that created a lot of pressure. And I think we lost, maybe up to this point, maybe we lost 30 to 40% of our SMEs. They're out of operation. So I think in order to establish a healthy and a sustainable ecosystem, the SME being a very important cornerstone of that, is really addressing the needs of that sector, and the timely decision making, the access to finance is important, and flexible legislation. SMEs suffered mostly from two major issues in Kuwait. One of them is the labor law, and the other one is the rent law. And this is basically what broke, honestly, the SMEs, or most of the SMEs. And without having a flexible legislation where executives in the public sector can make some decisions, so there were some kind of a challenge between going back to the parliament and getting laws to be changed or amended, and then go. The time required to do this is absolutely more than what can the small and medium enterprise can do. So if I can go back just a little bit to SMEs and urban planning, just to touch a little bit on that, I think there are transportation issues is important. Labor accommodation is very important. The idea to think about future in terms of the transportation in Kuwait, future the accommodation of labor law, future last mile storage facilities. These are more physical planning requirements that could be also looked at, and lessons could be learned from what we went through. So in a nutshell, SMEs are very vital to the economy of a city. It's in the core of the urban fabric, and I think making sure that servicing them from legislation, from access to finance is important. And one last thing, we always try to send a message through as the Chamber of Commerce, is we would like the government to trust more the private sector to be a serious partner in taking pressures like that. So in the future, if the role of the private sector is bigger, we can always extend a lot of help to the public sector and work in partnerships. And there are very good examples of these partnerships. And I'm happy to address any other points you would like me to address. Thank you very much for allowing me for that chance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omar Hayat. And I think that, there are also interesting opportunities for new types of business, which we would like to discuss later towards the end of this panel discussion as well. Thank you so much. So next, I would like to move to Mr. Hamoud Areneji from the Municipal Council. Now we looked at the public policy broadly, and then also commerce. Now, since the municipal council, let's say, is the closest to people and their well-being, so could you tell us how future cities will look like at the country, community, and then people's level? Over to you, Mr. Areneji.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hideko. And I would like to thank you all for this opportunity. I'm glad to be here. I would like to thank Dr. Tariq for the General Secretary for the UN in Kuwait. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Khalid Mahdi. Dr. Khalid Mahdi, he's our policy maker hero and he's quite influential in our work. He helped us a lot actually in the municipality council. Also, I would like to appreciate the participation of Ms. Maimouna here. My thanks to Dr. Irfan and Dr. Amira. I worked with them during the last year for several opportunities and worked them in a project for expanding green areas in Kuwait. Your question is crucial for this issue. Actually, the COVID-19 impact is not only on the urban planner. Actually, it's in every individual living in the whole globe. Actually, and actually, we cannot go back to normal. I heard it a lot that in the news that we are going back to normal. Now we have a new reality for normal. What's normal now? The normal before COVID-19 is different than the normal after COVID-19. This virtual session before COVID-19 was not that common. Now, after COVID-19, so many conference and session will be online. So the definition of normal is changing now. And we noticed that area that not properly designed or not properly developed face more challenges than the cities that well developed and well designed. And I will give you one example for that. The countries that still didn't develop labor cities or group housing solutions, they suffer a lot during COVID-19, especially if they have high concentration of working labor. So COVID-19 put us face to face to our delayed problem. So delaying facing challenges, COVID-19 put us face to face to our delayed problem. Same issue for the cities that has lack of digital services. Within COVID-19, they recognize the importance to have all digital services. So this is why the COVID-19 now accelerate the effort to solve all problems. And I think Dr. Khalid Mahdi highlighted this, that it is like a catalyst for our projects. Besides that, we are talking about the future city, the impact of COVID-19 on the future city. And if you're talking about future cities, that means we are not looking for quick fixes. Correct? We are looking for a solution that has great value for the next generation. So in this session, I would like to not focus on the quick urgent solutions. We are looking about long-term solution. We are talking about a new level of urban design. Also, people, how people look to the cities. What people want from the cities? What is the main function of a city? People, as everybody knows, look to the cities for main basic needs, as they need healthier, social healthy environment, social healthy, secure environment, and also they want a city that provide their economical activities and help them to make an income. So these are the two main functions of a city in the normal situation. But when a crisis like COVID-19, this perspective change. We are looking about not only social health, not only economic activity, we are looking for cities that are inclusive, that are accessible, that are resilient societies, and also the sustainable cities. This will be a must to make all the three components I mentioned possible. So still we are looking for social health and economic activity, but also we need to keep the acceptable level of standard of living even during crisis. Because when the crisis happen, like COVID-19 pandemic or any crisis, war or whatever, this will attack, this will challenge our way of living. So we need our cities being capable, flexible to still provide an acceptable standard of living. So I want to mention two levels. I want to mention on the community, how we will do that in the community level and on the individual level. For the community level, we are looking for toward our cities. We are looking for dependency and locally oriented city. So the locality of the city, the dependency of the city. So we need the cities when the lockdown happen or there is constraint on movement. We need still our cities to be capable to provide the desired standard of living and provide the needs of the people and still survive within pandemic. So inclusive, when we are talking about inclusive, we should look about the land use. So we need a mixed use, flexible use, like labor use, housing, retail, movement, parks, and public services, all within a walking distance, all within, let's say, the local community, all within our neighborhood. This is very, very important. And actually, as Mr. Imran said, there is a challenges on the SMEs. And here in Kuwait, we have a standalone area for SMEs, segregated from our cities, segregated from our communities. These kind of small business suffer a lot. But if they are part of our local communities, I think they have a good chance to make their business sustainable. Also accessible. So because when there is a pandemic means the city itself is ill, correct? So if the city itself is ill, we will see that it will impact the public transport, for example. The city will be isolated from other cities. So we need the accessibility. So we need to have a good design and good provision for the pedestrian, to enhance the walkability inside our local community. Also the cycling and all these requirements, so that without going far from your neighborhood, you still can live and can accommodate within your neighborhood and within your town. And beside that, the resilience, how to make our city very flexible and can survive and can do their functions regardless of the crisis, regardless even pandemic or whatsoever. So to do that, yes, we need to be inclusive and to be accessible, but also we need it to be sustainable. That means we need to revisit how we are living inside our community, how we consume less energy, and how we produce less disposal, and what we are doing with our disposal. We need to enhance community solutions for recycling. Actually, it's a change. It's a change of people living, how they consume. Societies like Kuwait and GCC, they are we have high consumptions of energy, high consumptions of electricity, high consumptions of water. This is an issue actually to make our city more sustainable. This is on the individual and the city level. And the individual level, if you are looking at the individual level, individuals are different because all individuals are belong to different social group. We have the residential area near business center where people live in an apartment, and in Kuwait most of the people live in an apartment are foreign professions or expats, and also the people living on townhouses, and most of them are local people, and these needs are different. So in our building code, we need to look at a green building We need to look at putting more spaces and more room. We have seen a pressure from the business sector that to make the apartment, to allow them to minimize the square area of an apartment. This is before COVID-19. We have seen a request to the municipality council that the business entrepreneurs and the business sector suggesting that we allow them to build a building with apartment only 45 meters squares. I think they need to revisit that, because during pandemic, during crisis, people will stay at their houses or home for a very long time. You cannot keep an individual or a family inside 45 meters square. And so that we need to enhance our building code in order to make more spaces, maybe to use to the roof, for example, to put requirement for the plantation, and to make any sort of solutions to make it more space. There is a studies I think issued last week about the divorce ratio in UK increased during pandemic because people stay at home for a long time. If the home is so small, it will put more stress on the family, and family break because of that. So this is the social impact is very challenging. And also, one of the individuals living in our cities are the labor forces or labor worker, the low-income labor worker. They are living onto the group housing. So we need to redesign and give more options for group housing. Here in Kuwait, we still lack of that. We have projects for labor cities, but these projects are delayed so far, and we face big challenges. Because all of these labor, we have 1.2 million working labor. During the pandemic, those people lose their job, or at least temporary, so they become a liability in our city. How to ensure that they still have the supplies, how to ensure that they still live with acceptable standard of living, and their hygiene also. We need to think about it. So without options for group housing, this will be challenging. I would like to have one comment, if you allow me, that yes, it's a design, but actually how we run our city, how to manage our city, the managing framework of the city will make a crucial impact. Even if we have a good design, if we don't manage our city well, we will still have challenges. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Aveneji. You really shed light on the importance aspect of mental health. And in fact, the Supreme Council for Planning and Development Secretariat, UNDP, has conducted a survey on mental health, both genders and then at different ages. So hopefully we will come up with the more in-depth analysis to design the intervention on advocacy. And then also we are now in the process of coming up with a chatbot to provide counseling to people on mental health and then well-being as well. And then such data we would like to also use for the behavioral insights to inform policy or program interventions. But anyway, very rich interventions. Thank you so much. So the next speaker, I'm so privileged to introduce the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. So-called the KISR, Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. And for international audience, I would like to introduce this KISR, that their mission is to undertake research and scientific and technological consultations for both the governmental and the private sectors in Kuwait, the Arabian Gulf region, and the Arab world, and encouraging collaboration with the international institutes. Today, the Institute is a home to over 580 researchers and engineers and over 100 laboratories. So I'm honored to introduce the Director General of Dr. Samira Omar for the brief introduction of KISR, followed by very renowned Dr. Shika Al-Sanat for the infrastructure innovation. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research to join you in this very interesting meeting on smart cities. And thanks so much for UNDP and you for the UN Habitat and for the Secretary General for the Supreme Council for the Ministry of Planning and all the excellencies participating in this meeting. I would like to thank you and I would like to introduce KISAR for those who are not aware of what we do at the Institute. KISAR is a research and development institute. It was established in 1967 to conduct research in different areas, which is mainly for the national interest. Development. And these areas are related to water resources, environment, and also we work on the energy and building, and we also work on food and petroleum and integrated research and techno-economics and in the information systems and many areas. As you see, the multidisciplinary areas of the Institute allows to provide experts and experience to multiple users in the country. COVID-19, when the pandemic was announced by the World Organization of Health, was a sort of a new area for R&D interest because there wasn't much known about its impact and how it affects human health and also the socioeconomic platform of all the countries. And it made us realize how important it is to look at this problem from an integrated perspective. It touched a lot of issues, especially in Kuwait, that deal with the financial system, with the health system, with the social economic system, with our resources, food security, water security, environment, energy system, and infrastructure efficiency, industrial issues, crisis management, climate change effect. So many issues that we have to look at it as part of direct and indirect effect of COVID-19. Definitely, KISA was very active from the beginning in establishing a flagship project that dealt with these all integrated issues by presenting project ideas and proposals to look at finding solutions and answers to many questions in relation to COVID-19. The biotechnology program, which is much related to the genetic and maybe related to public health issues, has been very active in identifying the COVID-19 and also to providing some implementing some projects in collaboration with international institutions like Harvard University in order to assess transformation of this disease by air and how to provide solutions to the municipal public health to avoid the spread of infection of this disease. Development of collective solutions by looking at all these problems also required developing our capability, our capacity in the Institute to make sure that we are capable of supporting the government, all organization in crisis management and to find answers to these questions. I would like to present an example of what we do under the sustainability and reliability of infrastructure. And we have with us Dr. Sheikha Sanad. She's an acting program manager of this program. And she will show some example of research projects that we do in relation to smart cities and the infrastructure needed to provide the efficient systems in order to become more self-sufficient in many ways, as I mentioned, because it has many elements in it to avoid diseases and also to become very sufficient to meet the demand of the society. And Dr. Sheikha is joining us now, and she is in this meeting. So I would like to request her, please. Thank you so much again. And I appreciate your invitation. And hopefully I'll be able to answer questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samira. Thank you for including me in this presentation. If you excuse me, I can't share my presentation to present what I'm doing right now relate to the smart city and the COVID-19. Please, with the host of the meeting, if you can allow me to share my presentation, please. Is the presentation coming up? Hello?
Not yet, Dr. Sheikha.
Oh, okay.
Yes, right now.
Okay.
Yes, we are waiting. Yeah, we are watching your desktop. So just open your presentation. Thank you.
There's something happening. Can you stop sharing and I will share it again? I think there's some technical on my side. Okay. Okay, now you can see my PowerPoint.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
great.
Perfect. Thank you again. I hope all well and safe, healthy with this current situation. Dr. Samira, thank you for introducing me. As she mentioned earlier, the element of smart city actually is divided into different aspects. So the smart city leverage technology solution is improved city service and living experience of residents. Municipality and other government authorization utilize the IoT, which we call Internet of Things, for example, sensor, network, application, to gather relevant information such as traffic consumption, energy usage, disaster management, monitoring of infrastructure safety, optimize medical infrastructure, air quality, and so on. Actually, the application is endless, as you see in this slide. However, in our program, we involve limited the structure health monitoring of infrastructure in Kuwait. A centralized structure monitoring center for the country will help the government authority to understand and observe all structures are safe during or immediately any natural disaster, for example, earthquake, windstorm, flooding, and so on. One example of what I'm doing right now, it's called structure health monitoring. Actually, we implement one element of smart city, as mentioned, is called structure health monitoring of important infrastructure in Kuwait. This is currently we are doing for Al Hamra Tower, which is the tallest tower in Kuwait. Also, we currently another structure health monitoring for the important infrastructure bridge in Kuwait. Also, we expanded to renewable energy project in Kuwait, for example, wind turbine. By utilizing the structure health monitoring in real time, the structural performance of the infrastructure. So the advantage of this also to estimate the onset of any structural damage in real time, immediately of any natural disaster. For example, earthquake. I'll give you an example. November 12, 2017, there was a large earthquake organized from Iran, about a magnitude approximately 7.3, along 600 kilometers away from Kuwait. However, this earthquake was called all bridge, short bridge, tall building also. It's called a panic also situation with the resilience itself. If the structure health monitoring is implemented with all structure of Kuwait, or in the country, I mean, what will help the government? Will help the government to estimate the structure safety of the building and infrastructure immediately after the earthquake. Also, the government immediately inform the resident about the condition where they're living on. Can also plan for resources in the future for any natural disaster will happen. Another smart city solution we are utilizing right now in the program is called GPS. also integrated with the structured health monitoring for the same building of the tallest building in Kuwait, Al Hamra Tower. Another solution, solution for utilizing the structured health monitoring right now, we are collaborating with the Minister of Public Works with the existing bridge in Kuwait of the highway about what the condition of the bridge in case any disaster happen. This is an example what we're doing. A technology is called related to the smart city as well. Also with the wind turbine, actually in Kuwait we have 5 wind turbine in the area called Al Shigaya. This tower building of wind turbine need to be maintained, and we make sure to be safe all the time. That's why we implement also the structured health monitoring for this tower of the wind turbine. So during the pandemics, if you want to consider during the pandemics, actually, due the recent pandemic situation of the COVID-19, government organization are discussing what this new technology can be explored. We need to, for a future and current situation. One large big area that we consider effect during the pandemic is the supply chain in all sectors. Considering here in this presentation, or in my talk about the infrastructure, so what I'm doing right now, a project like we develop application tool to assist and estimate and manage the risks related to the supply chain during the pandemic for the infrastructure. So the aim of this project, the application tool specific to Kuwait, which characterize all different stakeholders involved in the supply chain, will be benefit for also the owner, all the different stakeholders involved in the project, would help them to understand what risks they are associated risks right now during the pandemic, and how can they mitigate or evaluate these risks. The advantage of this tool actually is many. The user for this tool, they don't have to be expert what the risk assessment tool, what they have to do with is like an application tool for the user, for example, if the project owner, the contractor side, the subcontractor, to address the tool to risk existing and the application tool, I can find solution immediately how to manage it. So this technology also to help to save time during the pandemic, because with this interaction, we want to reduce the interaction between these people. So the application tools like one smart technology, how the project team, they can assess and evaluate and manage the risk related to the project itself, related to the supply chain. When we manage the supply chain, of course, we will deliver the project in the time, quality, and cost. So we need all these to be delivered. So what the output actually from this application tool, to evaluate a supply chain risk of complex engineering project, integrating risk database and pandemic risk for a different type of organization. And also we'll have like a document of a platform, including the theory behind the toolkit. So including all risks associated with the supply chain related to the pandemic of COVID-19. This is actually what we're doing right now at Technology Smart City related to the COVID-19 and during the natural disaster. I close up by this technology, what we're doing right now. The floor for you, Dr. Samira.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Dr. Shekhar, you finished your presentation, correct?
Yes.
That's very interesting. So thank you so much. So now I have the pleasure to move on to the next speaker, Dr. Abdallah Al-Zaidan, the Deputy Director General of the Kuwait Environment Public Authority. So Dr. Abdallah, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Actually, Dr. Abdallah and I have some commonalities that he studied in Japan at the University of Tokyo. So anyway, Dr. Abdallah, you have been at the forefront of environmental diplomacy and discussions. So could you tell us about the recent international partnerships over innovations toward future cities? Over to you, Dr. Abdallah.
Sure. Thank you, Hideko. I would like to thank the UNDP for organizing such a webinar to have the most capable parties within Kuwait to carry out their sight and vision for the new Kuwait, inshallah. So esteemed guests and panelists, we welcome you. So most of the concerns of the environmental public authority, or as we can say, the environment as a whole, is to target the sustainable developmental goals. And the pillars that we're focusing on are goal number 13, which is combating climate action, which is revolves around the climate change, 14, life below water, and 15, which is life on land. We do have several partnerships and collaborations with international parties, and all have to do with improving the well-being of the environment, the biodiversity, and the well-being of the urban areas within the cities. So, as you know, the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs highlighted that the urban population would double by 2050. So that will impact directly or indirectly the biodiversity settlement in the urban areas. Also, this is true, the Convention of Biological Diversity have been increasingly recognizing the loss of biodiversity caused by urbanization, and that was tackled since 2008. As most of you have seen, the pandemic of COVID-19, as noted previously from the different keynote speakers, have its positives and negatives. As an environmental aspect, we have seen that the positive aspects resulted in a reduction of pollutants in the air, and that was seen globally, not only in Kuwait. Also, locally and internationally, we've seen different videos on social media and sightings of the increase of biodiversities, either being in the marine environment or also in the desert. So the environment itself is a salvation and an area where human beings can interact to get a better health during such pandemic. So this can be carried out by increasing the urban biodiversity, hence introducing the concept of green or biodiversity city concept, which improves the ecosystem services that people in the urban area can benefit from. We have Kuwait Environmental Public Authority has signed an MOU back in 2018 with the National Park of Singapore and parks to help introduce the Singapore City Biodiversity Index. And by that, Kuwait hopefully would be the first Arabian and desert country to join. The Singapore City Biodiversity Index has been applied internationally in Europe, Asia, and America, and it enables local municipalities and cities to manage biodiversity and ecosystem services in a sustainable manner. It increases the native biodiversity, being either flora or fauna. Biodiversity is the basis of ecosystem services and supports human activities in various aspects, including provisioning of resources. The index would provide ecosystem services by green city concept and biodiversity, including water regulation, carbon storage, recreational and educational services, regulation of climate, regulation of forests and urban parks through tree diversity, health and well-being for the public in the urban areas, food security resilience in the urban agriculture. The main aspects of the city index or the Green Biodiversity City Index, it helps to evaluate the progress in reducing the rate of biodiversity loss in urban ecosystem, and it helps measures the ecological footprint of cities. Since then, the EPA have heavily invested in transplanting projects for both coastal areas near the urban areas, to reintroduce plantations such as mangroves, and also the transplanting native trees to contribute for such a cause in natural reserves and other desert areas to combat desertification and climate change. The environment has a positive effect on human health and well-being, and we are here at the Environmental Public Authority doing our most best, our very best, to carry out such vision. Yes, the floor is yours, Hideko.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdallah. So Dr. Abdallah shared us some interesting video. So our team, can you play it?
In this new technique, a heat-blocking coating is applied to the road's top surface. This is a 1 millimeter thick coating of quick-drying, very strong resin. It contains a special compound that effectively blocks the heat from the sun. It looks the same as conventional pavement, but it doesn't get as hot. After the road surface is cleaned, the heat-blocking coating is applied on top. The heat-blocking coating dries hard in about 30 minutes. It keeps the surface temperature about 10 degrees lower than conventional asphalt pavement. This performance continues as long as the heat-blocking coating is present. This diagram compares reflective characteristics over the solar wavelength spectrum. The dark gray heat-blocking coating is as reflective as normal paint when it comes to visible rays, but strongly reflects light in the near-infrared zone. The secret of the heat-blocking pavement is its high reflectivity to near-infrared light, which makes up about half of all the sun's rays. These temperatures were measured in a test of actual road surfaces. The heat-blocking pavement stayed 10 to 12 degrees cooler than the asphalt pavement. Because the road surface stayed cooler throughout the day, less heat was transmitted to its surroundings. Over 2,200,000 square meters of heat-blocking pavement has already been laid in Japan, and its use is spreading rapidly. It's not only creating a more pleasant human environment in city streets and public parks, it's also used to prevent rutting on surfaces like airport taxiways. Cooler, safer, and more comfortable. We're changing the roads of the world for the better.
Hey, Dr. Abdallah, would you like to comment on this video?
Yes. Thank you, Hideko. This product will be hopefully used soon in Kuwait, and it's a heat reflectant product. As a new technology with collaboration with EPA, the Japanese corporation will be introducing to Kuwait to use the pavement heat blocking technology. As known, the urban areas contribute to heat island phenomena due to the increase in temperature due to the hot seasons and also the influence of industrial and transportation emitting heat. Such technology has been used globally in Singapore, Japan, the Middle East, and we hope to use it in urban areas to have it spread near schools, urban areas, houses, hospitals, to reduce the temperature by around 10 degrees for the well-being of the urban cities and to combat the heat island phenomena. The technology contributes to low carbon society and is environmental and human friendly and helps the reduce of temperature, as I mentioned, around more than 10 degrees Celsius. Thank you, Erika.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdallah. So now we would like to move on to the next speaker, who is engineer Sulaiman Al-Rashid from Kuwait University. And actually, he is also the project manager for the Kuwait Master Plan. Okay, now many countries, in particular countries in this region, are impacted by dual crisis of COVID-19 and declining of oil price per barrel. Mr. Sulaiman, please tell us what Kuwait Master Plan can support issues around self-sustainability and resilience for future pandemic, as well as economic diversification. Over to you, Mr. Sulaiman.
Thank you for the introduction, Hideko. I'm from Kuwait Municipality, not Kuwait University, though. And I share my greetings and Kuwait Municipality's greetings to all of the participants of this webinar. First of all, for those who are not familiar with what a master plan is, briefly, it's a spatial plan that delivers the country's needs based on two things, an economic growth and population growth. Now, leaving the economy aside, automatically a population will have to grow. And a growing population demands an increase in food demand. But the primary challenge is that Kuwait is currently at roughly 25% self-sufficiency, which means that the country must import 75% of its food to meet the demand. There are a number of constraints which limit Kuwait's capacity to become totally self-sufficient. To name a few, first of all, we have a problem with water security and poor water quality. This is because over-extraction from groundwater sources, this has increased salinity levels. Second of all, our harsh climate implications. We really do have less rainfall, and we also have high temperatures. Third of all, there is also a socio-economic factor. Unfortunately, this profession is not seen as attractive to young Kuwaitis. Therefore, consequences are a decrease in the level of self-sufficiency and therefore greater dependence on food imports. There is one actually interesting fact to mention. Now, the only key group that Kuwait is self-sufficient in are eggs. Not even vegetables, not even dairy products are even halfway to the number of eggs. Therefore, under the master plan, our agricultural activities are highlighted from livestock farming and husbandry, fishing and aquaculture, food processing, and agricultural storage. And as for the proposed planning strategies and policies for agriculture under the whole Kuwait Master Plan, the goal is always to improve self-sufficiency and food security and resilience. Therefore, we projected around 139,000 additional agricultural jobs throughout the 4 sub-regions and an additional 85,391 hectares of land required across the sub-regions for as agricultural activities. But the thing is, even after that, Kuwait will still not be 100% self-sufficient, but there is an opportunity to develop a self-sufficiency in certain food groups, such as vegetables and green fodder, to the extent that these might open up export opportunities. Now, the total land proposed under the Kuwait Master Plan is a number much less proposed by the Public Authority of Agriculture and Fisheries. And this is because we are proposing more efficient agricultural methods, such as hydroponics and vertical farming. We did study alternative technologies and methods to meet the growing demand and their relevance to the fourth Kuwait Master Plan, such as I mentioned, hydroponics and vertical farming. It's because currently the agriculture sector uses far too much water. Both methods, hydroponics and vertical farming, provide a feasible alternative for food production, also use much less space and water than conventional farming methods. Second of all, an interesting project might be community and domestic production. We came up with alternative ways of growing food, which will help take pressure of mass production facilities. Now, we are proposing future projects such as agriculture in the Gulf, an urban agriculture in the metropolitan area, a Western hinterland agriculture, and the Northern Economic Zone. We're also developing an agri-tech hub. Now, such projects would combine innovative food production methods as well as industrial processing in order to increase the productive capacity and efficiency along the supply chain, and enable food products that could target both local consumption as well as regional exports. Now, as projections under the master plan, I'll have to mention that we are proposing a total land area by 2040 of around 315,000 hectares, proposing also 140,000 total jobs under the agricultural sector by 2040. We do not wish that projected water demand exceeds 471 meters cubed per year. And our goal is always to increase the self-sufficiency to reach at least 40% by 2040. Over to you, Hideko.
Thank you so much. This is very interesting. You know, oftentimes we talk about agriculture. You know, agriculture is for rural area, but then you are challenging the notion of urban and agriculture for the self-sustainability and resilience. So it was very interesting. Thank you so much. So the next speaker is Dr. Sandra Draskovic, the General Manager for Kuwait Building Council, Kuwait Green Building Council. So it's a very innovative council because this is a non-profit organization committed to developing a sustainable property sector for Kuwait by encouraging the adoption of green building practices. So Kuwait Green Building Council is affiliated with the World Green Building Council, and it's a part of its network. So Dr. Sandra, what lessons we have learned from COVID-19 and what kind of solutions are available for greener real estate sector? Over to you.
Thank you, Hideko. First, I would like to thank you for invitation to take part in this very important panel. And thank you, Dr. Amira, and thank you, Hideko and the team and UNDP. And it's great to see you at least through this virtual platform. I believe we would meet at many conferences this year in the region, but at least I can see you this way. It was really insightful to hear other perspectives from different organizations and institutions in Kuwait. Thank you, Hideko, for introduction. I would just also like to add that Kuwait Green Building Council, we believe, plays a really vital role in the transformation of the real estate market in Kuwait as the very innovative council. It's like non-governmental, non-profit organization. It's membership platform based that gather together and public and private sector in Kuwait around one common goal. This is to transform market and make it more sustainable. At the moment, I'm sitting in the first certified green building in Kuwait, built by Alarjan, and I can also say that Kuwait Green Building Council is chaired by Engineer Khalid Al-Mashan, who is pioneer in this field. And as we discussed before, what we can talk about, what is the perspective of Kuwait Green Building Council of the change and transformation in post-COVID real estate in Kuwait. You mentioned that the private sector can play a vital role in that. And from our vision, we believe that private sector actually can accelerate the action in order actually to deliver the ambition of Kuwait Vision 2035 and Paris Agreement by eliminating the building and construction sector emissions by 2050 and committing to advancing net zero buildings in Kuwait. The narrative that Kuwait Green Building Council had before COVID was quite different. We were talking about emission that comes from the buildings, and talking about how existing buildings can be more energy efficient and water efficient, how we can build more sustainable buildings. But due to urgency of the COVID-19 that show us that actually buildings in Kuwait and the stock of real estate buildings in Kuwait is quite inefficient and actually contribute to the ill conditions of the health and well-being of the occupants. Now we believe that urgency of the change is big, and it's very important to find solution. We heard already that changes in the legislations and the policies and standards in Kuwait is the one of the starting points, and then we need to set up very high bar to accelerate the change. But the change also can come from the private sector. So I would like to show you one example how the change can happen. If I may just share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, confirmed.
Yeah, thank you. So here you can see some of the members of Kuwait Green Building Council, and they're all mostly coming from the private sector, covering different supply and the main chain of the construction. And all of them have some of the solutions for the problem of making buildings in Kuwait more sustainable. As there is lack of legislation in the Green Building Code in Kuwait, all these companies found their way to reach the market. We discussed also about like waste management in Kuwait as one of the major problems, and then this problem was really big during the COVID lockdown because all the recycling and service provider were on a slowdown or completely banned due to health concerns. We can see that here in Kuwait we have like 52% of the waste is actually organic nature. 21% is paper, cardboard, plastic 17%. Then we have glass, hazardous waste and other waste in Kuwait. Most of this waste ends on the landfill due to the lack of service providers that can actually reuse them, remanufacture or recycle. When we discuss with our members what could be solution to this problem, one of the main solutions they underline is to find and bring the very solid fiscal stimulus packages for SMEs in Kuwait to support them, because recycling in Kuwait, they don't find it quite profitable. On the other side, they believe that legislation and incentives for recycling in Kuwait is very important. We know that the Environmental Public Authority, together with the private sector, is working on the National Strategic Plan, Waste Management Strategic Plan. And at the moment, they are collecting data to find solutions to the problems. But meanwhile, private sector can drive innovations and change in this field. Also, we know that there are quite a lot of Kuwaiti companies, SMEs, who are actually managing the waste in the way they can through the recycling, reuse, repurposing the waste, and just changing the direction, diverting them from the landfill. So we can see some of the companies here in the image, like Omnia, which is a very successful solution of the private-public partnership. Then there are some other companies, also all members of Kuwait Green Building Council, and then building art from the waste. But also community is struggling to change the behavior of how actually waste is managed, and in Kuwait, from residential buildings, from office building, healthcare buildings, and retail. So often questions comes from their side, how we can and what can we do, not just to change a condition of the waste in Kuwait. So this is one of the problems that Kuwait Green Building Council is trying to highlight. And we had one very interesting green talk during the COVID pandemic on this question, like discussing with one of our members how actually hazardous waste can be managed and recycled, especially during situations and like pandemic. Heidi, do you have some other question related to green buildings?
That's great. And actually, we received some question from a Bangkok regional office regarding the opportunities for businesses in the area of recycling. So could you dig a bit more about the public-private partnerships around specific business opportunities or examples?
This is actually quite a large question. because it comes from like different levels, from unit level, which is, let's say, house, and then we have neighborhood, and we have city, and the whole system needs to function as a whole. But I can mention, like at the level of the building, it can be regulated by legislation how the waste can be managed within the building, and how can be collected, and then at the end how the contracts with the potential recycling company can be managed. Let's say in this building, because this is LEED certified building, there is a must to get the credit. One of the requirements is to recycle waste during operations of the building. So all of us here who are occupying the space, we are quite obliged to segregate our waste, like paper and metal and cardboard and wood. And there are contracts signed with different companies who collect and then further recycle waste that comes out of the building. But this is like voluntary action of one developer. So if this is not managed by strict regulations in Kuwait, then most of the developers and real estate owners won't choose this option, because it takes efforts, it takes time, it takes money to do so. And finding solution to bridge this gap and go into public-private partnership for the service providing would be one of the solutions, like very successful solutions for at the level of the city and neighborhood and the building as well. Because there are quite a lot of materials that they cannot be recycled in Kuwait, and there are no companies. So this usually material ends up at the landfill, which ultimately pollute our environment and adds on greenhouse gas emission and air pollution in Kuwait.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sandra. It's very interesting. So as you have seen, we have a variety of speakers. We started with the public policies, framework, and COVID-19 actually gave us opportunities to advance incremental reform agenda. We talked about the science, and then we talked about the innovations, and then also people's level. We have to look after well-being and the mental health of people as well. One question I saw from Renata from New York, UNDP, that goes to Mr. Abdallah of Kuwait Environment Public Authority. Do you have some ongoing effort over innovation to protect the marine environment and the fisheries? Over to you, Dr. Abdallah.
Yes, thank you, Hideko, for such an important question. Yes, we do. We're trying to organize now internationally to introduce the biodegradable fishing gear and fishing nets, as you know, and this is by the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. 10% of the total plastic waste in the sea is from lost fishing gear, and that contributes to around 6,400 tons of marine litter. So we've reached out to the UK, we've reached out to the US, and also some Asian countries such as Korea to try to find the best biodegradable fishing materials, such as nets and lines, that can contribute to lessen the plastic pollution in the seas and to lessen the effects of ghost fishing. And by ghost fishing, I'm saying that the constant depletion of fish stock due to this phenomena. So we're trying to combat these two phenomena, and hopefully we will do our best to succeed. Thank you, Hideko.
Thank you so much. So I hope I'm not missing out any questions. Okay, wonderful. Then may I ask Dr. Afan from UN Habitat Regional Office, Regional Director, Mr. Afan, over to you for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Hideko, for the facilitation. Thank you so much to all speakers and presenters today for the thought-provoking interventions and exchange of ideas towards the sustainable urban future in Kuwait. please allow me to quickly share some takeaways and insights from the discussion, because I know that we exceeded the timing of this session. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the progress of implementation for the Kuwait development plan that was very clear from the presenters. Kuwait was able to utilize the lockdown period positively to look into the ongoing dialogues that relate to governance structures and have invested in developing the country's infrastructure through expanding technological advances in terms of upgrading the government services and e-learning, as well as health e-services provided by the Ministry of Health. We have an evidence of the functionality of the healthy city model in Yarmouk that worth to be scaled up in Kuwait, in the Gulf region and in the Arab region as well. Kuwait took a huge leap in innovation and technology and building smart cities through sustainable resource mobilization and harnessing the knowledge and expertise of partners and stakeholders. Public-private partnership also are crucial for achieving sustainable development and improving service delivery, given that the private sector has shown its ability and its resilience to address the crisis in a fast manner. Finally, COVID-19 is a reminder of the need for partnerships, government, local governments, the UN agencies, UNDP, Habitat, others, private sector, CSOs, research centers like KISR, for cross-learning and knowledge sharing across borders, sectors and cross-border sectors and generations. So our collective response will determine how fast cities will recover and how well we handle pressing challenges for the future. Thank you so much to everyone. Over back to you, Hediko, to close. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Sharif, are you still with us? Thank you so much.
I follow the discussion. I follow the discussion attentively. Yes.
So may I have a few words from you, Madam? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the discussion this evening is very, very robust. And then I would like to put into 3 points. One is we are talking about future cities, and without forgetting the existing cities that are facing the pandemic. So we are talking about future. So the future cities, we know about all the discussion today, but the existing cities, I think we have to look into the new way, the new urban regeneration, and the new normal that we would like to put to the way that we would like to have a cleaner cities. We would like to have the safer cities. We would like to have the greener cities. And also at the same time, we would like to have happier cities, happier people living in the cities. So I think this is very important for us. And then for me, at UN Habitat, we have to look into what I can gather is that we look into the 4 areas. We have to do the rethinking of the state and reorganizing the local government mechanism. We look into the urbanization of the governance, and also at the COVID-19 pandemic. We have to look into addressing the systemic poverty and inequalities. Rethinking of urban morphology, new evidence on density, smart city, compactness, new city and eco-cities and all that. And rethinking of the current urban economy and business model. And how we tackle the inequalities, strengthening local government, and also pursuing green, resilient, and economy. So I think this is very fruitful discussion, and I'm very happy to be part of the webinar. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much. So we reached the end of this webinar. I would like to thank Ms. Sharif, the Executive Director of UN Habitat. Also, I'd like to thank all the colleagues from UN Habitat, also UNDP, across different regions, as well as a resident coordinator's office. And then thank you so much, distinguished speakers from the state of Kuwait. Thank you so much. Good evening and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Maimuna.
Thank you. Thank you, Amira. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And everybody, goodbye.